Hi Stampers, it's Lisa. I apologize, I'm a few minutes late. I lost a little tiny die that I need for this card. There's actually two of them in the set and I lost both. Go figure, right? But I found one of them, so that'll at least allow us to move forward and create today's card. And it uses the beautiful butterflies bundle. And I've used this one a couple times. I really like it. It does some beautiful things. And this time I'm pairing it with the Meant to Be dies, which cut out that hexagon in the middle. So I'm excited to show you how I do this. So we're going to move down to the desk and we're going to cut out a base. Because like I said, I spent some time trying to figure out where the dies went. What I lost was the body to the butterfly. This set has two of them, which is great because there's two detailed butterflies and then two of the bodies that go with it. I just couldn't tell you where one of them is at the moment. It's here on my desk, I swear. And the one that I did find was stuck to the bottom of my phone. You know how nowadays phones have that little magnetic circle on the back? That's where my die was. It was stuck to the back of my phone. So that's one. I think the other one might be in the carpet, but anyway, we're going to be using those butterflies. We're going to use the whole bundle because I'm using the stamp set out of it. And in here, I use the butterflies embossing folder, but I'm thinking I might use the hibiscus one in there instead for our next card, just because I think it's pretty. And like I said, we're using the Meant to Be dies. So I have those out already. And we're using three of them, the three smaller ones. And they cut out differently than I'm used to because they cut out an actual like ring, because I was trying to create a ring using two of the dies like we normally do, right? Well, the outside one, it actually cuts a ring. So when you run one die through the machine, it cuts out the inside and it cuts out a ring. But it wasn't wide enough for what I wanted. So we're going to be doing that differently. And we're going to start out with a card base, 4 1/4 by 11. And then we're going to score that at 5 1/2 and 2 3/4. So we're cutting it in half for our card base like normal. But then I'm going to cut or score the front in half. And so that's the 2 3/4. Because that's what's going to create our easel portion of this card. And I'm excited to be using the new Designer Series paper. I'm almost done doing all of my paper shares, like getting it all cut up and packaged and ready to mail out. And I was thinking how pretty this is. I love the like leaves on this side. And then the other side has flowers. So this is one where it's got kind of a, a generic background and then flowers on this side. And then this one has the leaves on one side and then these stripes on the back. And I made a mistake. I was doing my swatch books, which are 3 by 6 strips. And I thought, oh no, I have 2 extras. So I should have left this 6 by 6. And so I thought, what can I do with a 3 by 6? Because I cut it wrong. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut them to fit on the front of this for my card. That's why I'm doing it in 2 pieces. You could choose to do this all in one layer, but because I'm trying to use up scraps, which we often have, I decided to do it this way instead. So because they are 2 3/4, I'm going to put this into my trimmer at just under 2 3/4. So this is 2 5/8. So it's just one little long mark under the 2 3/4. It's only going to shave off a little bit. And then I'm going to cut them at 4 1/8. Okay, because the card is 4 1/4. And if we go down 1/8, so half of one of these little squares, that's going to be the other side. This is a fresh freesia, and my sample was made in Bubble Bath. So I am using the Subtles collection. These designer series papers, they come in those two patterns. And then they are in every color of that color family. So this has, Highland Heather and Pool Party and Balmy Blue, all of these really pretty subtle colors. And then, of course, they have regals and brights and neutrals, all of those. They're all available. Oh, and then I wanted to use this too. So I'm using this on the inside of my card. And I'm going to cut this diagonal. So I'm going to drop the blade in the middle so that I don't scrunch into my points and slide up and slide down. So there's those two. And then, of course, we wanted to burnish. So how's everybody doing today? Did you have a decent Mother's Day? Mine was like super quiet. I heard from the kids kind of on phone for a little bit. But I miss the days when we had the kids home and we could like actually go do things. But they live in different states, so that's like not even a thing anymore. Okay, so I'm going to use these just as some accent pieces. Like I said, I had a little scrap and I wasn't sure what to do with it, and so that's what I came up with. Is there a right and wrong side to the die? No. I mean, they're regular dies in that they have, the cut side on here, and then this is the flat back side, even when they have the item number. And they're, mirror image, so there's not, a left and a right, and there's not a top and a bottom. So no, there's not two sides. Yeah, they do kind of look like wallpaper, don't they? I'm just checking to see if there's any questions so far. Like I said, we haven't really done anything complicated, so I'm sure there won't be, but I always check. Thank you to everyone who is liking and sharing. I appreciate that. Okay, I don't see anything. Okay, so now, oh, Patricia said she had a good Mother's Day. That's fabulous. Okay, because these are 1/8 inch borders instead of a 1/4 inch, I'm going to use liquid glue because I want to have time to kind of wiggle it around. So when I place it in there, I can wiggle for a little while and make sure that I am lined up properly. We went to Costco, spent way too much money as always, but I was looking, the flowers were like $59.99 for a bouquet. And I told my husband, I'm like, the flowers are pretty and all, but don't buy them on holidays like this, because we could use $60 like definitely somewhere else. That would buy a Stampin' Up bundle or, a new pair of shoes, something practical, right? We have roses in the front yard. Go pick those. Yes, when you put them through the machine, they are going to go with the cut side down towards the paper. And so you can see it's a very tiny little, like a lip on there, but you can see it's got kind of a raised section, and this side does not. So they're going to go down that way with the cut side towards the paper. All right, so my first one, what I want to do is I want to take these hexagons and I'm going to put one right across the middle. So I'm going to use those little pointy ends in my score line. So I'm going to line them up, and I'm trying to keep an equal distance here and here. Sometimes they slide a little bit in the machine, so sometimes I will pin it down with a Post-it note, just to like hold it in place so it doesn't shift. Then I'm going to put it on my base plate and then put that over the top. I have the Chrome Precision base plate instead of using 2 number 3s, just because it doesn't warp. And I was tired of buying so many replacements of these. They do last a long time, especially if you take care of them and you flip them every other turn, that kind of thing. But I found this Chrome Precision base plate and have been in love with it. Okay, so see how that cut that extra little hexagon out of there? So I can see where that could make some pretty designs. But so now I want, this is going to be my inside of my ring, right? And then I wanted an outer ring. And I first was looking at doing this one. And it would have given me a small ring had these been just single-edged dies, but they're not. So I needed to use a bigger one. So I skipped a size in order to get the bigger ring. But I don't want to cut it out of this. I want to cut it out of a coordinating cardstock. So I can either use more of the fresh freesia, or I could use bubble bath or something. But again, I want to kind of keep an eye on the distance between these. I kind of want to keep my points like lined up, and then I want the distance between here and there to kind of be the same. Okay, and then again, once I have it all set and I'm like, okay, that's where I want it to stay right there. I'm going to tack it down with the Post-it note and then run this through the machine. Okay, and then I want to do this one more time. So I'm going to take my dies. It's great if they stay on the Post-it note because that will keep the same distance so that they will match up. But I'm going to move that to another section. So there's my wider piece. And then we're going to do this again. Now, if you have the clear plates, what you want to do is push down on it. And if there is some kind of a give, if there's like a hump and it's going up, you want to flip it over and run it through the machine the opposite direction. And it does make that cracking sound. That is normal. Everybody freaks out when they hear it. And mine even did crack. But they still work. It doesn't affect the way they cut. So there is our second one. And these other pieces I can save for another card. They'll be useful for something, I'm sure. I even used the inside of the hexagons to use as a scrap to cut out my butterflies because like several of them fit in that middle. So I could get 3 butterflies out of the one small inside. Okay, the hump again. Okay, when you have these and they're kind of, sometimes they'll warp. This one's not too bad, considering how old it is. They start out totally flat, but when you're going to put it through the machine, if it has some give, like I can press this down, the hump is coming up, and I can press it down. I want to flip it over and run it through the machine this way so it will flatten it back out. Sometimes I'll even like label on it with a Sharpie or a sticker or something and say side A and side B. And then I just try to remember that each time I use it, I flip it so that it does wear evenly and it doesn't get a large hump to it. They are replaceable. We do sell replacements. It is totally normal to have to do that. You don't want to do it too often, obviously, because they get expensive, but they are meant to be replaced eventually. Okay. Wish I knew where that other die went, because I'm going to need a bunch more bodies, so we might not finish that part of putting all the bodies on, but we'll see. Okay, so I have my detailed butterflies all cut out. Then I have my 2 circles, and then I use acetate, and I use that middle size, so not the 2 that we just used, but the middle size I'm using to cut out the acetate, because that will make it fit right in the middle. So I don't know if you can see, but see how it just is just enough to like hang over the lip, so it will be inside of that one. And that's why I have 2, because we're going to sandwich it in the middle. We're going to adhere it inside, and then we're going to glue the 2 together so that when it does this angle thing, it has the back covered up. Okay, and like I said, I wanted to do something pretty with it, especially since this is the actual backing to some of my photopolymer stamps. You know how they come on that plastic and then we stick them in the inside of our stamp case? I use the acetate from those. Honestly, I'm really bad about remembering the hump thing. It was another demo I was watching the other day that was mentioning that and reminded me of it. Sometimes our brain gets so full of things, like there's no room left. Okay, so I'm just going to find some flowers within here. You can't see, I've got that acetate in here, and I want to run this through and dry emboss it. But to dry emboss, we're going to do this differently. The base plate, or plate number 1, will show you the sandwich that you need to use. So when we're die cutting, we use this base plate, and then we use 2 of the number 3s, this one, and then the other one that goes on top. Okay, because I use the Chrome Precision base plate as my bottom, I just put this one on top, and that's the Chrome Precision base plate is the same size as one of these clear ones. But we're going to be dry embossing. So what I need is plate number 1 and then plate number 4. So I have 1, and then here is 4. So this is a little thicker. There's a thickness difference, and it's going to make this fit through the machine and give the right amount of pressure for this to go through. So can you see how that gives kind of a floral pattern to it? And it's, you know, you could totally do it clear. There's nothing against that. Like I said, this one's got the butterflies in it. So you don't have to do the dry embossing. I just thought it'd be pretty in there. And then if I wanted to kind of stabilize my acetate so it stays put, I might try to at least anchor 2 parts. So I'm putting a glue dot on there, and then I can kind of center this and have it just barely touch those 2 glue dots. And then when I come back and I put the rest of my adhesive, then I know that I'm going to be totally within the frame. Okay, and again, I'm using liquid because I want to be able to wiggle it a little bit. because I want these to be exactly square on. So I'm going to find one corner and then another corner and kind of wiggle them around until we are mirrored exactly on there. Okay. So that's going to make our front piece. But it's going to be an easel card. So I want it to be able to pop up. So I only want to glue the bottom half. I don't want any glue on the top half. So just 3 of these little sides. Again, I'm using liquid glue because I need it to match up exactly to that hole on the inside. Because I want it to hide that hole. So it kind of matches up exactly on the inside. So Patricia, when you said you were doing that backwards with the flipping the plates, is it working for you? Are they staying rather flat? Because I know the big deal is to flip them often to get even wear and tear on both sides. Also, if you're using 2 of the clear plates, then you want the one that's got more wear and tear, like the ugly one that's got all the cuts in it. That's going to be your bottom one, and then your newer, cleaner plate is on the top. And then after you've run these through several times and they're starting to wear out, then you would take the top one, make it the bottom, and throw this away, and then put your newest plate on top so that you're constantly refreshing the cleaner one on top. Okay, now I need the butterfly dies again, because what we're going to do is make our inside easel. So this inside is a little mini easel that's going to hold up this easel. And that's what gives us the double easel. But in order to have this be the butterfly like this, what I need to do is I have a little piece of paper here, and this is 2.5 by 2, and then I scored it at 1 1/4, and then I put this on here and I scored it right at those like 2 points. And I want to make sure that a little bit of it is going over the edge, because I want to ensure that there's still a hinge at the top. Okay, I don't want it to cut the top. I want this to stay kind of like a card. So again, I'm going to use the die sandwich. That's what we call the layering of the plates, is the sandwich, because it's telling us what plates we're using. Come on. So here is our like mini inside card. And as I said, it's scored here at the bottom so that it will do the easel thing. And then I have one of our full butterflies, which is the same one that I cut the card for the mini easel out of. And I want to adhere just the bottom. Again, liquid glue so I can wiggle. And then I thought these were going to layer better on the inside. I mean, I suppose they work, but I thought they were going to be a little better fit. But because they're detailed, I went ahead and I put adhesive sheet on the back of the cardstock before I ran it through the machine so that I could peel off the backing. And now this is super sticky. And I can place that right here. And I'm kind of lining the body up the center. So I'm making sure I'm even this way and then trying to put the little triangle of the wings and in the outer triangle of the wings. So I'm kind of even. And then of course we have the body. And I did that on adhesive sheet as well. And then we're going to do some stamping. Boy, losing that die earlier, like I feel like I'm all out of order. I hope I'm not as confusing as I think I sound. Okay, this is the stamp Happy Birthday from the Beautiful Butterflies. And normally we stamp our sentiments right in the middle, and you totally could. But I thought for doing something a little different, I was going to stamp it diagonal down here in the corner. And then put the butterfly in the middle. So kind of reverse of what I normally do. Normally I'm stamping in the middle and putting accents in the bottom. And since we are now good, we have done our stamping. We know we don't need to do the other side, so we can adhere. And I can use my tape, my Stamp and Seal, because we have the back to the 1/4 inch border. And then I kind of want to figure out where I want that in order to make it stand up. So kind of, you know, about in the middle. But I want to mount that on dimensionals. So let's bring in some of those. Because this will raise it up just a little bit and it gives it more to lean against. And then I want to be sure to center it so I can like use my ruler at the top up here and put my dark line in the center and then try to line it up that way, kind of, you know, doing this. Or I can bring in a ruler, and this, what is it, this Tim Holtz ruler that I recommend has the same kind of idea, that it puts the 0 in the middle and then it has the 2 on either side. So one side has the 0 in the middle and one side just goes 1 through 12. But it would allow me to position this so that I am definitely centered. And then I probably ought to put a little flower or something here. There are these great little flowers here that would probably work perfect for that. That would give it just a little bit of a bump to hold against. And I need some more of those bodies. I had some basic gray. Sorry, bunches of stuff in my way. But I'm going to cut out more of these for the front. Ooh! I just threw the die into my file drawer. That was fun. That little teeny one. Luckily, I found it. And the adhesive sheets come in these 6x12 pieces. And I usually cut them to fit because I don't always need the full 12 inches. So this is just, going to be big enough to fit on here and allow me to cut out those bodies. Yeah, maybe. Somebody said that they think that one die was trying to direct me to the one I lost earlier. So now this side is super sticky. This is just kind of like wax paper. And I'm going to put that sticky side down against the cardstock. And now I can die cut out of that. So I can just set that in the corner and I'm going to run that through. And then these little holes in there are what we call ejection holes. And it allows you to pop the cardstock out of the die. And the take your pick tool fits perfectly in those little holes. So see, one of these little holes is to pop out the center of the flower. And the other hole allows you to pop out the cardstock. Okay, now with the little thing in here, I could put a mini dimensional under there. That would fit perfectly under there. It would make it a little sticky in the middle, but you could put a little bit of embossing powder, baking soda, something over the top, and that would hold it up, and it would hold that. Or we could put this down flat and then put a rhinestone in the middle of it. But just something that will bump it up and give the top something to rest against. See how it just does that in the middle. And of course you can cut these in half if you needed to. Let's see that. It's going to give that something to rest against. And then this will rest against that. So now all we need to do is decorate the front with the rest of our butterflies. So these are ready to adhere because they have the sticky stuff on the back. So then I just kind of went around the card and just tried to randomly place them so they look like they were flying around. And I wanted to keep it all on the, I want to call this the hexagon. because it's sticky on the back and I didn't want the top wing to stick to here and not allow me to lift that up. So just be careful. If they do hang over, again, that's where you would want to use the embossing buddy or something to take the sticky away from the part that's hanging over. See, I can have it hang over down here because that part's covered. Then that's how it works. So can you see how you could do this with any number of things? I still need to go back and put the bodies on, but you get the idea. You could make the little things floating around. You could make them flowers. You could make them honeybees. You could make them maybe even just the little punch out of the house down here in the corner. You could put greenery around it. I can think of a whole lot of things that you could do with this. But this teaches you the fold. And again, I'm using the meant to be hexagons, but you could use a square, you could use a circle, any number of things. You just want to create that frame, do it for both sides, use that center die to cut your acetate, and then put your ring on both sides so that it will pop up like that. Okay. So there we go. There is today's card. A double easel with a butterfly as our inner easel. Okay. Okay, Helen's saying, too bad I don't know anyone who would mail me this type of card. Like the finished card or the pieces? Because I do classes where I pre-cut everything. And right now I'm working on the notes and totes to do a class on that. I've thought about one for the happy hibiscus. There's several things we could do classes on. If there's one in particular that you're anxious to use, like I had people asking me about how to use the butterflies since it was that hybrid embossing folder, and I offered a class on it. So definitely something to think about. Watch my newsletter, and that's where you will find more information on when I offer my classes. Like I said, there's one coming soon. What I do is I create a video and I create a PDF tutorial, and then I email the tutorial and the video, and then I mail you all the pre-cut parts in the postal mail, and you have some excess pieces to create more cards even after you've done the 12 that come in the class. So thank you so much for everyone who has been here and is hanging out with me. I really appreciate you being here. And I hope to see you again on Thursday for our next Stamping Made Simple card. Thanks so much. Bye.